Kanse, I'm Chris Anachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for watching. The Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepinak met with Manitoba Lieutenant Governor Anita Neville on Wednesday. The two discussed a number of issues, including the AFN's call for a First Nations-led public inquiry into the deaths of Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, Rebecca Contois, and a woman known as Buffalo Woman. APTN News asked Woodhouse-Nepinak what role the Lieutenant Governor could play in influencing the government to call an inquiry.
We're hoping that we can find a common path forward. Like she told me that this issue has been dear to her heart for long before it was an issue, and we had a long conversation about that. Our meeting went way over. Of course, we talked about child welfare and housing and education, and we talked about many issues that affect First Nations, and we talked about, unfortunately, how the high numbers of kids in care in Manitoba, it's probably the highest around the world.
The family of Morgan Harris were the ones pushing for the call for the independent inquiry into the 4 Indigenous women's death. They are also preparing for the upcoming search of the Prairie Green landfill. With more, here's T.R. Wheatley.
Because they have to pour a concrete foundation.
Some family members of Morgan Harris have come to the Prairie Green landfill to see this. The family healing lodge, fresh on site, still on a trailer.
Yes, so it's going to be a space for our family to come together and, watch the work happening.
She's talking about the politically charged initiative to search the landfill. Admitted serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky told the cops he disposed of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron in a garbage bin behind a business near his apartment back in early May 2022. 2 weeks later, it is believed the 2 First Nations women's remains ended up here in the Prairie Green landfill. This healing lodge will become a safe space for the Harris and Myron families to gather once the search begins in the fall.
Do ceremony with our elder, Grandma Shingu, smudge, be fanned down, whatever it is that we're needing to get through that day, because each day we know is going to be different. One day it could be really good. The next day, we could be hit with a lot of sadness.
After a heart-wrenching 2 years, this is the third bit of good news that Morgan's relatives have heard in a row. Just last week, Skibitsky was found guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder for Morgan, Mercedes, Rebecca Contois, and yet-to-be-identified Buffalo Woman. At the same time, an annual event for the Assembly of First Nations was happening in Montreal, where Robinson and Morgan's children were seeking support for an inquiry into the 4 women's deaths. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, or AMC, put a resolution on the floor that was unanimously supported by all leadership in attendance. Here on site at the Healing Lodge, Robinson also shares her reaction to the midweek announcement about National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepinak meeting with Manitoba's Lieutenant Governor.
I was a little taken back that we weren't informed that it was happening.
After calming herself down, Robinson said she reached out to the AMC, who then explained this brief meeting was to hand the resolution over.
Everything that we've done has always been family-led, family first. Assembly Manitoba Chiefs has always ensured that everything is run through us before it goes back out. So it was a bit of a shocker as I was sitting there this morning drinking my coffee. So I immediately messaged and said, "What's the scoop on this?" And so no, it'll be a quick exchange today. I understand. I'll take it as that. And when it's time for us to sit down, we will.
Right now, though, Robinson says the real work of searching the landfill is what's important, so they can bring Morgan and Mercedes home to their communities for a proper burial. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The representative for youth and children in BC just released their latest report, which details the tragic story of a young boy that was failed by the system. APTN's Tina House has this report and a warning to some viewers. Some details in the story may be disturbing.
The stories of the children in this report call us to take action and to take action now.
At this press conference, Grace Lohr, who is the Minister of Children and Families, addressed the media. They are here to discuss this report called Don't Look Away, that shines a spotlight on the cracks in the system that failed an 11-year-old boy named Colby, a First Nations boy who died after enduring months of torture, neglect, and severe abuse at the hands of extended family caregivers. In the report, the representative says intergenerational trauma is one of the factors in the death of Colby and many other kids in care.
How do you make sure that some of the intergenerational violence that is caused by historical and ongoing colonization and colonialism, how does that get addressed so that there can be really strong and loving relationships and nurturing and back to breathing life into the ways of being from time immemorial?
Cheryl Kassimer of the First Nations Leadership Council says enough is enough and more needs to be done to ever prevent this from happening ever again.
I can guarantee you that there is a child somewhere, whether he's Indigenous or non-Indigenous, who is waiting for somebody to step up for them right now. There is a child somewhere today who is hungry, who is being hurt, who is suffering from mental health issues, who is hoping an adult or someone is going to come along and help them.
The report highlights the confusion over roles and responsibilities, not enough support for struggling parents and caregivers, essentially setting them up to fail, requires an entire system review.
We are going to look at whether we need to pull apart, think differently about prevention and protection. And as the representative has said, we also need to take the steps now that support children's safety.
Mary Teegee from Carrier-Sir County Family Services read a powerful quote from a young boy in care to the audience.
I would like to leave you with the words of a young boy, a child in care, and I say this often, but it bears repeating, who said he dreamt of a day when he only had to read about the impacts of colonization in residential school, not have to live it. In this case, Colby unfortunately had to die from those impacts.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Though the Winnipeg Jets run didn't last long during the playoff season, ticket sales from the celebratory events like the Whiteout Street Parties will make a lasting impact in Winnipeg. On Tuesday, United Way Winnipeg and True North Sports and Entertainment announced that they would be giving $100,000 raised from Whiteout Street Party ticket sales to local community organizations. $25,000 each will go to 4 organizations addressing addictions and homelessness in Winnipeg, including Main Street Project, and in Dina Waymak, the Bruce Oak Recovery Center, and Salome Mission. They say not a penny will go to fundraising or administrative costs, but rather to the front lines. To date, more than $300,000 of ticket sales proceeds has been reinvested into local organizations. Main Street Project's Executive Director Jamil Mahmood shared how the Winnipeg Jets include everyone in the celebrations come playoff time.
It wasn't mentioned in this, but it's really, the work that happens around making sure that every shelter in the city is able to throw a whiteout party in our own buildings and screen the games and provide pizza and have the Jets towels present and that kind of stuff. Gifts and things like that are all a big part, and True North doesn't promote that part, but it's a big part of celebrating that culture of hockey and what the whiteout parties mean in all of our spaces for all of our community members.
An investigation is underway for a jail in Western Ontario regarding human rights allegations. We'll bring you an update of that story right after the break. Welcome back. The Kenora District Jail is under scrutiny as inmates there look for help from the outside to get their needs met. One community advocate says the conditions are violating their human rights, but her attempts to hear from the man in charge of Ontario's jails fall flat. Sav Jonza has more on the story.
Issues at the Kenora District Jail have sparked an investigation by the Ontario Ombudsman over human rights concerns. Community advocate Tanya Cameron brought the concerns of various inmates there to light after a tour of the facilities.
I've seen things in there that I was really shocked to see, like even in one cell block, up to 5 guys staying in one with just one set of bunk. And there's a top bunk, regular bunk, a mattress under the bunk, and 2 mattresses on the floor. Yeah, so I was really disturbed, and it was really enlightening to see the conditions within that jail.
She says she was told by inmates that they were not being given a good quality selection of menstrual products and sometimes had to wait hours to receive them after making a request to correctional officers.
that's their truth. I heard that from 4 or 5 women. You know, we don't get the supply when we need it. The one CO, she said, no, you get it when you ask. And the one woman countered, I asked 3 times and I still never got them.
She continued to learn more as a group of a couple dozen women spoke. Some shared the conditions of their jail cells.
Later we learned it was secondary would be the issues with the toilets, the non-functioning toilets. Okay. And it's really, if you're on your time, you need a working toilet. So, and if it's more broken and unusable in a cell block, there's no other option for them. So it's dehumanizing.
Cameron says roughly 90% of the women there are from First Nations in the area. They told her they have no access to traditional healing spaces for connecting with their culture while serving time, but that the men do. Cameron says the women's spaces were taken down during a construction period a few years ago and were never put back up. The male inmates have a sweat lodge, teepee, and a tent for traditional teachings.
I don't know if they recognize how misogynistic that is, that, well, there's only 35 women in there, so you don't really count, and you could live with a broken toilet and you could beg for your period products, and you won't have access to your traditional teachings or sweat lodge, but the men will have it.
We contacted the Ontario Ombudsman for more information about the investigation. They said while they can't talk about individual cases due to confidentiality, access to healthcare is consistently the most common concern they hear from inmates. In 2023, the Ontario Ombudsman received 4,444 complaints and inquiries about correctional facilities. Some of the most common concerns were related to medical care and overcrowding.
I think, to be honest, racism is very blatant when you go in there. People, sometimes they are caged like animals when they are human beings.
Sol Mamakwa is the member of provincial parliament for the Kiiwetinoong constituency, which includes Kenora. He went with Cameron on the tour and backs up everything she says. Mamakwa says he visits jails across northwestern Ontario often, where he sees overcrowding and an overrepresentation of Indigenous people. He brings Indigenous leaders on tours with him so they know what's going on behind closed doors.
But also try to remind the Solicitor General the responsibilities of them to make sure that they treat us as human beings.
Cameron says she sent 2 letters and made multiple phone calls to the Solicitor General of Ontario, who oversees the province's jails. Weeks later, she still hasn't heard back. It was almost the same for us. The province's Solicitor General declined repeated requests for an interview, but they did email us a statement. The products that are available free of charge in female units at all provincial correctional facilities include varieties of tampons, varieties of sanitary napkins, as well as panty liners. And this part is interesting. Features at the Kenora Jail to honor the unique histories, traditional practices, heritages, beliefs, and cultures of Indigenous people include a teepee and a sweat lodge. The Kenora's Chiefs Advisory has also supplied additional programming such as the Indigenous Cultural Wellness Program. Mamakwa says the last time he spoke with the Solicitor General was after his visit to the jail with Cameron.
He reiterated that there was proper menstrual products there, but he wasn't there. It's based on what he hears, right?
Cameron says that since her visit, some inmates say access to menstrual products has gotten better, but for Mamakwa, the mounting issues around human rights in jails have a solution.
That's what I mean by, we need to be able to transition them into our First Nations, smoothly and quickly as possible, because we need them in our communities, we need them in our homelands, we need them in in our traditional territories, not in jail, not in Kenora.
Sav Jones, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
And Sav brings us an update to this story. Last night, Kenora City Council passed a resolution put forward by Councillor Lindsay Cook calling for the implementation of a policy to support the delivery of menstrual supplies in under 15 minutes at the Kenora District Jail, and for proper and ongoing maintenance of their toilets, among other things. The creator of Orange Shirt Day, Phyllis Webstad, is our next guest. She will tell us what's new about this year's Orange Shirt Day. Stay with us. We're back in less than 3 minutes. On the East Coast, St. John's 21, Charlottetown 21 as well. Northern Quebec, Nuujauak 10, La Grande River 14. Val d'Or 15, Saguenay 21. Toronto 20, North Bay 16. Sioux Lookout 19, Timmins 24. Northern Manitoba, Thompson 21, Churchill 20. Southern Manitoba, Gimli 19, Dauphin 20. Saskatoon 21, Yorkton 17. Northern Saskatchewan, Stony Rapids 19, Buffalo Narrows 22. Northern AB, Grand Prairie 23, Fort Chipewyan 24. Lethbridge 25 with rain, Edmonton 23 with sun. Tofino 14, Kamloops 23. Dease Lake 14, Smithers 15. Beaver Creek 8, Rock River 14. Yellowknife 20, Norman Wells 15. Inuvik 11, Colville Lake 15. Baker Lake 11, Chesterfield 10. Arctic Bay 7, and Igloolik 11. The founder of the Orange Shirt Society and the creator of Orange Shirt Day, Phyllis Webstad, has been educating the public about what happened in Canada's residential schools for many years. Thanks to her, Canada wears orange on September 30th to remind the country of Webstad's first day in residential school and how her favorite orange shirt was taken away from her at only 6 years old in 1973. Webstad is from the Shwakam Excadam First Nation in BC. She recently joined us now from Vancouver to tell us more about Orange Shirt Day this year. Phyllis, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us about some of the important points you want to make about Orange Shirt Day this time around this year?
Yes, one point that I wanted to make was that the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation did not replace Orange Shirt Day, that it is both. Many of our people and people across Canada believe that it was replaced, but it is not. It will always be Orange Shirt Day. And I wanted to let everyone know that the Orange Shirt Society is the owner of the trademark Every Child Matters. If anyone wants to use our trademark, they can contact the Orange Shirt Society and we will talk with them and give permission to use our slogan, Every Child Matters. And I wanted to talk about how our slogan, or the phrase, Every Child Matters, was born. It came about in 2013 when Orange Shirt Day first started, when I shared my orange shirt story about my 1 year at the St. Joseph Mission outside of Williams Lake, how myself and others, 5 and 6 year olds, should not be comforting each other, but that was the case. We could be hungry, tired, sick, lonely, sad, and we just had each other for comfort. And when I shared my story in 2013, I shared how I felt we did not matter. So that's originally how the slogan came about. And it is now owned by the Orange Shirt Society. So anyone wishing to use our trademark must obtain a license from the Orange Shirt Society to use it. And my other message is, many don't know the difference between June 21st and September 30th. That was debated when the day was being decided upon for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. But June 21st is a celebration of who we are as Indigenous people in Canada. And I often hear people say, celebrate Orange Shirt Day. And September 30th, Orange Shirt Day, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, is not a day for celebration, it's a day to remember. It's a day to honor survivors and their families and to remember those that never made it home. And so you would never say, I'm going to celebrate Remembrance Day. It's, there is, some have powwows and different things like that are usually celebratory, but the day itself is not meant to be a celebration.
Definitely important points to make, Phyllis.
Yeah. Yes.
We are still a couple of months away from Orange Shirt Day on September 30th, but every year we hear about non-Indigenous companies trying to profit from the design. How do you feel about that and how this continues to happen?
Yes, from the very beginning when the Orange Shirt movement started, we at the Orange Shirt Society have not had the capacity to adequately respond to what's happening. We're a staff of 7 now. We've only been have an office full-time since 2019, so a little over 5 years, and it has grown and continues to grow. So now that we are the owners of our trademark, we can control it a bit more, but it is painful to see that companies are using Every Child Matters and are profiting.
Phyllis, finally, really quickly here, on Orange Shirt Day this year on September 30th, really briefly, what would you like Canadians to do on this day?
Orange Shirt Day, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on September 30th is a day to have conversation on all aspects of Indian Residential School and the impacts that it has on families and continues to have. So there's, I know there's powwows, there's gatherings, and people get the day off as a paid day. And someone asked me once, well, what if I wanted to go ATVing up in the mountains on that day? And I told them, well, that's fine. Just have a conversation while you're there about what you know about what happened to us as Indigenous people and about reconciliation. And it's about the conversation and about learning. We're only in the beginning stages of reconciliation. And it's a day as well for survivors to tell their truth. Truth comes before reconciliation, and the truth is not yet fully told.
Phyllis, thank you for talking to us today, and happy travels on your journeys across the summer here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that's your midday national newscast for this Thursday, July 18th. Dennis Ward is back for your evening national newscast. Make sure to join us again in a few hours. From everyone here at our HQ in Winnipeg and from our reporters across the country, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching.